Well, hi there. My name is Drew, and if we haven't met before, welcome to ReadyBudgetGo. If this isn't your first time visiting my channel, welcome back. Either way, I'm glad you're here. As I'm recording this today, it is Tuesday, May 12th, and this is the first video that I've recorded in almost a month. I am going to go over the end of my April budget and how that closed out, as well as go over all the numbers from my big move. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go! Before I dive into the numbers, just for those of you who are new or who haven't been keeping up with what I've been doing, I recently moved from the West Coast to the Midwest, and I recorded all my expenses for it. I kept track of the pre-move expenses and I've been sharing those along the way, but now I have the actual numbers for what it actually costs to move me from the state of Washington to the state of Ohio. So before I get into that, I'm going to go into the April numbers. I moved in the last week of April, but I still had 2 more weeks of budget closeout to do. So let's jump into that first. So let me open up to these are some of the numbers. So you got a quick preview there. So let's go into the April budget. So paycheck 2 was as expected. Cell phone reimbursement as expected. I did have the bonus on the first paycheck, so that made my total income a little bit higher than what I had initially projected. Down here, I had all my expenses come in pretty much on budget, except my haircut was a little bit under, and I had another renter's insurance payment come out that shouldn't have, but it did, so that was, oh, actually, I take that back. That was a legitimate renter's insurance expense for April. I also paid it in May, even though I shouldn't have because I forgot to cancel it in time. There was just too much going on. So bills slightly under budget on the whole. Wallet expenses, I'll go through the detail in a bit. I spent $318.05 in the third week and $126.64 in the fourth week. I was already a little bit over where I should have been, so I finished up about $25 over budget for the month, which is fine. The bonus more than covered it, and I also had a remainder factored in. Stockpiles were as expected, $400. I haven't taken the cash for this back out of the bank yet. I need to do that, but it just has not been a priority yet. So it's all still sitting in my checking account, and I will go and get it out and put it back into the envelopes where it belongs here in the next week or 2 weeks. Savings and extra debt, all of this money went to the big move. That was my goal for the month of April, was that any dollar that I could throw toward the big move, I was going to, because I wasn't sure how much I was going to spend. So when you add everything up, I had budgeted for a remainder of $100, ended up with $808.75. Moving on to the cash flow tracker. So anything in blue and purple is new since the last time I did a video. So I had some credit card payments that came out, and then cell phone reimbursement came in, and paycheck 2 came in. And I already did all the totals and checked for the balance, and it did in fact balance. And I apologize, I keep shaking the camera, so let me move it slightly over, and hopefully that will keep it steady. I think the table's knocking into the tripod. Okay, so moving on from there, and I guess I can keep this centered as well. Okay, expenses for the month. So in the third week, food and laundromat was about it. I was on a business trip this week, so some of these expenses were from when I was out of town. Excuse me. But all in all, I kind of stopped buying groceries. This $125.40 is all restaurant spend, and I combined things together just to make sure that I didn't have to print out another tracker, because I don't have a printer right now. I mean, I have a new printer, but I have not set it up yet. It's another thing that's on my growing to-do list. So these are squeezed together, and this is just by when it posted, because I wasn't doing a day for day like I usually do. So you know how credit cards work. Sometimes things post right away. Sometimes they post 3 days later. I have credit card charges from the 6th. Today is the 12th that still haven't posted. So I did the best I could. And then the last week, there were just a couple expenses that straggled in. So I just put them into the last week, even though most of my spending from the last week of April was going toward the big move. So I actually spent this the week before, but because it posted in the last week, that's where I put it. Weekly cash, $50 a week. I don't know why I put that in as food. That should have been a no category, because in fact I still have this cash in my wallet. I just took all the remaining petty cash and put it into my wallet for whatever I needed, and I've been spending out of there. Okay, so month-end review. Not too much to talk about here. These numbers were off by a little bit, but not anything that I need to, make a note of. I did note that the reason my income was higher was due to the bonus. What went well, received the bonus from work earlier than usual. Usually this takes about 2 or 3 paychecks after the end of the quarter. I got it at the end of the quarter. And then spending and saving, actually, I guess that was on time. For some reason, I thought April was the end of the quarter, but it was March. So anyway, and then spending and saving was mostly on target. What needs improvement, I just wrote down NA because most everything was pretty close here. And then I made a note for next year, and these are really May reminders, but because I didn't do a May budget, I just threw them on to the April, that I do have an annual fee that comes out on 5/1 for one of my credit cards, and my renter's insurance renewal will be due 5/1 of 2027. Okay, so that's it for the April budget. Now let's talk about the big move. So let me go back here. So all of these expenses up until this point on March 19th were sort of the pre-move. So I made a trip out to Ohio at the end of February and early March, just sort of a scouting trip, make sure I liked the town well enough that I was going to be able to find a place to live. I toured some apartments, and so that was all good. And then all of these from April 11th onward are what I'm counting toward real expenses of the big move. So there are all kinds of categories here. This is 1 week, not even 1 week of spending. And I won't go through each transaction, but let me tell you how things ended up, right? So we have household. That's, just replacing household supplies. Had to buy a new toilet plunger and a new silverware tray and some new plates and things like that. $475.63. Furniture, $2,085.71. I bought a new bed. I bought a new bed frame. I bought a new office chair. I bought a new desk. I bought 2 new bookcases. I bought a new nightstand. Can't think of what all else. Oh, I bought a dining room chair, just one, because it's just me. I may get more. So that was about $2,000. Housing, this is anything for moving costs where I owed the property money, or what else did I have under here? I had parking for City of Dayton. I had my first trash bill for the month, renter's insurance I put in here, and the change of address for the Postal Service. Food, $426.64. Everything we ate on the road. Restaurant meals, typically 2 a day. Breakfast was at the hotel, included with the room where we stayed. So lunches and dinners for about $400. Transportation and fuel. This does not include the car rental. I have that separate. But this is for a Lyft that I took the night before I moved in, and then all of the gasoline from my place in the Seattle area to my place in Ohio, $769.94. Could have been a lot worse, but at the same time, had I done this move 2 months prior, 3 months prior, I probably would have saved about $200. But then I would have been climbing over the mountains in the middle of winter, and that could have been treacherous. So, entertainment, $209.36. This includes stops along the way. So we stopped at Wall Drug in South Dakota, stopped at Devil's Tower in Wyoming, stopped at Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, went to the movies, saw The Devil Wears Prada 2. Don't really recommend it. That's a 6 out of 10. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but that was $200. Hotels, $2,151.74. The hotels at either end of the trip, so in the Seattle area and in Ohio were the most expensive. The hotels in along the journey were much less expensive. But that's about what things averaged out. I will say that on the road, we got a 2-bedroom suite. So the room costs were considerably higher than they would have been for just like a single bed. Okay, but well worth it. If you're traveling with, folks that you're not in a relationship with or with kids, those 2-bedroom suites are the way to go. Okay, car rental and flight, $3,032.90. This is a one-way plane ticket from St. Louis to Seattle for my cousin who was driving me across country, and then also the cost of the car rental. The plane ticket, I think, was around $400, I can't remember. But I just reimbursed her for her expenses. Because I don't drive, excuse me, the cost of the car rental had to go on her credit card, and then I paid her back. So $3,032.90. Just for the record, this was for renting a Chevrolet Suburban. Junk removal, $402.55. This was the cost to get rid of all of my furniture at my old place, and I just had the junk truck come because I know they do their best to donate whatever is salvageable or usable. So that was that. And I went through and added everything up, and I can't remember if I wrote it down. Let me look at my notes over here. Nope, I didn't. So let's add them up again. Scoot this over a little bit. So $475.63 for household, $2,085.71 for furniture, $256.47 for housing, $426.64 for food, $769.94 for transportation and fuel, $209.36 for entertainment, $2,151.74 for hotels, $3,032.90 for the car rental and the flight, and $402.55 for the junk truck. $9,810.94. So basically $10,000. There are more expenses that are still coming in for the big move. I continue to buy more furnishings for my apartment, and that will continue to cost significant sums of money, and new household supplies, things like that. But I have to draw the line somewhere and call this project complete. So that is what I'm doing here. So about $10,000. I did transfer all of the money out of my Wealthfront account for the big move for savings challenges, and I put that into checking. So that's been paying off all the credit cards. And then I've left the money in there for the subscribers, and I will talk about that here in just one sec as I flip over to my savings pages. Let's see here. Not the Blip Fund. There we go. So this is not quite up to date, so I need to fill in several more of these. I need to fill in 3 more, but I do have the money deposited. My balance is at $48.50, which it should be. I save $5 per subscriber, and I do it at every 10, so $50 at a time. I don't know where my markers are, so once I find those, I will update this, and I will update this with the transaction dates for when I put the money in, but it is at $48.50, working toward $5,000 for 1,000 subscribers. Now, the initial plan was that I was going to use this money and put it toward the big move, but obviously the big move is behind me now, and I don't need $5,000 more to handle the next phase of whatever it is I need to continue to purchase for my new home. So that brings me to a discussion of my goals. So let me flip back to the front of the book. And this is something that I've been thinking about for the last week or two, pretty much ever since the big move was underway. So the emergency fund is fully funded at $15,000. That is sitting in Wealthfront. The big move, it didn't get fully funded at $15,000, but it's over with. So I'm calling that a completed challenge or a completed goal. So that leaves me with seeding my business, and it's pretty much there. I need to look at the business checking account and see how much is in there. This is also going to pay for a few of the expenses for the new place because some of them are business expenses, not many, but some. Contribute the full $7,500 to the Roth IRA for the year. Blip fund fully funded at $2,000 and all sinking funds fully funded by end of year. So I think what I'm going to do with the $5,000 from the subscriber fund is that I'm going to put that toward my retirement. And I will continue to, I will work on funding the remaining $2,500 when I get back into savings challenges, which should be in June. But I will need to also, so I'll need to top off that $5,000 with the $2,500. And I don't know when that $5,000 is going to be done. I'm not going to touch it until I have 1,000 subscribers. And that might take 2 weeks. It might take 2 months. It might take 6 months. Who knows? So I'm being patient, and it will happen when it happens. And when it does, I will thank each and every one of you and make that contribution to my Roth IRA for my future. And then the Blip fund I will work on, and then I'll think about sinking funds. I kind of need to reevaluate those. I'm not quite sure that all the sinking funds are really where my lifestyle will align now. So I need to look at that. But that is for a future video. I will put out probably a video about my goals. It might come into the weekly reel at some point. I don't know if I will be doing weekly budget updates for this month, just because, again, I didn't do a budget, and I deliberately didn't do a budget. The reason being because there were just too many unknowns in May to try to plan for. So I'm kind of freewheeling it. I have told myself I will spend out of my emergency fund if I have to. I'm trying not to get carried away, and I think I've been pretty disciplined so far with not just spending willy-nilly, but there are things that I do need. So we'll see how that goes. If I do spend out on my emergency fund, then that becomes the top saving priority to replenish that. But I think I'll be okay, especially with that bonus hitting and some of the way the other things are hitting. I also don't know what my paychecks are going to be like. Washington State has no state income tax, but it does have payroll taxes. Ohio has state income tax and local income tax. But I just got my payroll advice today for my first paycheck of May, and it still showed Washington State deductions and no Ohio deductions. So I'm arguing that with the payroll department, and we'll just have to see what happens. So that is it. That is the update. I hope that it was everything that you hoped for. I am incredibly happy in my new home, so I'm glad the big move is behind me, and now it's time to look forward. Speaking of looking forward, I will get back to making physical products for Etsy again. I am behind on getting designs done, but my first priority is to get my Etsy shop back open again. There are some things with registering my business here in Ohio that I need to get done before I can do that, but my goal is to have that done within the next week or so. So I will put out a post or another video when the physical products are available on Etsy again, so be sure to be watching for that. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment below, and please leave me a thumbs up as well. That's always helpful. And if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I am getting really close to 1,000 subscribers and to that major milestone, and I'd love to hit it, ideally before the end of June, but like I say, it'll happen when it happens, and I'm just kind of along for the ride in that regard. So thank you again so much for watching, and until I see you in the next one, take care.